Good morning, all. Thank you, Maria, for this invitation, for being here today. I'm here representing the ambassador of the European Union to Ukraine, Katarina Maternova. This is a very busy week for us with 3 different high-level missions from Brussels coming to Kyiv, so the ambassador could not be here in person. I was asked to give an inspiring speech today. And as I was thinking what I could say coming from my heart, because I don't think there is any other way of being inspirational if things don't come from your heart, I looked back at these 2.5 years of war, and I remembered how in the first months or in the first weeks, many of us in the, let's say, Friends of Ukraine community, we had maybe naive ideas that this would be over in a few weeks or maybe in a few months. And comparing to the situation that we are in now, those thoughts indeed seemed naive. So what is the situation today after 2.5 years of war, and specifically from the point of view of people like many of us who are engaged in communicating about Ukraine internationally? Well, it was not over in a couple of weeks, obviously, nor in a couple of months, and maybe it will not be over this year. But something enormous happened globally, and it is that in the global mental map of how the world is, of how the world functions, a new country appeared. It is, of course, not a new country for you, but for many of our targets, for many of our audiences globally, Ukraine was completely an unknown land. It was a kind of Atlantis, a sunken land which lies somewhere beneath the sea. Now this Atlantis has emerged. It is very visible, recognized internationally, recognized also by non-specialists. I think one of the ways that we can encapsulate this, I said it before, is the fact that the words Slava Ukraini are now understood internationally. I think one of the most significant quotes by non-Ukrainians that I have heard of this is by the president of the European Commission, von der Leyen, which in February this year, talking in the European Parliament and commemorating 10 years of Maidan, she concluded by saying Slava Ukraini. It's something so small and so banal for many of you here, but from a non-Ukrainian point of view, it's a big sign of this Atlantis which emerged from the ocean and now has a place on the mental map of global observers. So this is what happened, I think, in a nutshell, or in a very brief synthesis in these 2.5 years. But again, thinking of what more can be said now, what have we learned? I think there is also something else, and here I'm obviously talking as a friend of Ukraine who is non-Ukrainian. We have learned that there is no going back to how things were before. And this is something that here in Ukraine is very palpable, probably to most of you. But when you are not in Ukraine, when you sit somewhere in a peaceful country of the western part of the world, many audiences still believe that this is a crisis, we will close it somehow, and we will go back to the life of the world we had before. If, with a naive spirit, we may have believed that 2.5 years ago, I think now it's pretty clear that there is no going back. There is not an easy way to fix the world as it was before. The invasion of Ukraine by Russia, the full-scale invasion of 2022, has put an end to a period of peace and stability and expansion of democracy and human rights in Europe, which started with 1989. So international audiences need to recognize that there is not an easy way to fix this. That it's not possible to go back to business as usual. Again, von der Leyen again said that the European Union will continue to pressure Russia until it ceases its oppressive stance against Ukraine. But it's not only the aspect of the invasion of Ukraine, because it's not only about Ukraine. It's kind of paradoxical that a Ukrainian soldier born in a village can die in these days in the front line in Ukraine, and with his life and with his actions and with his deeds, he's not only dying for Ukraine, but he's dying for something larger, for something more universal, which is the aspirations for living in a free and democratic world. Indeed, the fight in Ukraine is not only about Ukraine. The brave people in this country are also defending universal values, or what we want to believe are universal values. So, how to win? The question is to be addressed from each person's point of view, otherwise the question seems without a solution. Everybody needs to do what his position allows and requires. For many of us here working on strategic communication, this means continuing to do what we do, talking with our partners, and trusting the process. Well, we may not see an end to this, but we need to believe that our collective action, where everybody takes the responsibility, will succeed, even if we don't see yet the end in sight. More practically, I think it's not possible to outline a full, let's say, strategic communication strategy for victory of the hearts and minds that feature in the subtitle of this event. What can be done apart from specific actions, and there are many success stories that can be quoted in terms of strategic communication on the side of Ukraine. But at, let's say, middle level, what we can aim at is creating communities. That's, for me, a strategic goal that, from a strategic communication point of view, we need to aim at. What does it mean, creating communities? Creating communities between Ukrainian, and here I make examples, Ukrainian civil society and Global South civil society. Creating communities between Ukrainian academia, researchers, and European researchers. Something else that we learned in these 2.5 years is that the global communication space is much more complex and diversified than we thought. We can't have a single message for all the world. We can't have a same message for Western audiences and the same message for the Global South. So that's why creating communities is such a powerful tool, because once the community is created, it will take a life of its own. You open communication channels, and then communication will happen. That's, I think, a realistic goal that can be pursued in the next years, and that can ensure that Ukraine has continuous support and growing support by international audiences. So I'm aware that I have been talking quite a lot for an introductory speech, so I will come to the end by saying that it may be obvious, you may have heard it many other times, it's still important to state it, that the European Union continues and will continue to support Ukraine's sovereignty and independence. Recently, in the last months, the European Union has also committed 50 billion euros for the reconstruction of Ukraine under the Ukraine facility. 50 billion of euros is a large number. To put it into context, if we think about the Marshall Plan, which the US developed after the Second World War for rebuilding Europe, 50 billion euros is a larger sum than any Western European country received at the time under the Marshall Plan. And with this, I really conclude. I also thank you, all of you, for being here today. And I also want to thank Maria for this minute of silence dedicated to the Ukrainian defenders, because whenever you come on the stage and you try to think what you can share of insightful from your own experience, you are faced with the feeling that no matter what you say, there are no words that can compare with the actions of the brave people on the front line. Not all the words are so important. Some actions are incomparable to words. Thank you all.